Ladies Beyond Flying, warm welcome from Autumn, Berlin, Germany. My name is Daniel Stecher, IBS Software, and it's a big pleasure to have another Ladies Beyond Flying Aviation Women panel, the 38th meanwhile. Our journey started July 2020. It's really amazing. We are meanwhile more than 1,050 members in our LinkedIn group, and I'm very happy that I could win Lana Jansen, the founder and CEO from WePlan, for her talk today. We met in July in Frankfurt, and we had also a fantastic lunch conversation. I like very much your style. We agreed to have your vocal topic today a session. I will help you if there are colleagues here in the call who have a question. Please use the raise your hand feature in Teams, or you can type your question, but we prefer that you are verbally asking your questions later on, and then let's have a funny session and an open debate. Stage is yours, Lana.
Well, thank you so much, Daniel, for having me, and to everybody for taking the time to listen to what I have to say about pursuing a career while raising a child. The social and personal aspect, I have to say I'm still on the journey, but yeah, happy to discuss my takeaways so far. Before I kick it off, maybe just some background on who I am, so you understand as to in which part of my career I've started to involve the topic of having a child. So actually, I'm now 36. My background is aviation management, and I've got a master's in international business. Entered the aviation sector quite some time ago, 12 years ago. As a consultant, been traveling the world as a consultant since then, working for airports, airlines, ground handlers, cargo handlers, really anybody in the supply chain on topics such as IT implementation, vendor selection, union negotiations, process reengineering. So I did a lot of, let's say, business topics, redesign of operational concepts for airports and airlines. I was honored to be part of 3 airport go lives, and so I've seen a lot of the operation side. Having collected so much experience, I became partner at 30 at the consultancy that I worked for, and obviously at that point I then started to also be responsible for a lot of employees, for developing their careers, for becoming a proper, so to say, leader, and trying to inspire employees and lead their careers, establish more profound knowledge and thought leadership, and transform my client's organization. I collected a couple of awards from Wirtschaftswoche, which is a German newspaper, and I took over a couple of, so to say, disciplinary responsibilities in the consultancy, teaching me yet again how it is to run a medium-sized company. Back in 2018, I founded a startup next to my consulting activities, and that startup is dealing with resource planning in the aviation sector and duty plan analytics. So that's still going on. And as you see, let's say, I never became bored. So I was always a person that was busy doing things and focusing on my career. And within my clients, and I get involved heavily with my clients, or I've always been very intensely involved in my client projects, even as a partner. So personal relationship is something that I sell off of, and they appreciate me for, especially, getting things done and delivering a very high quality and staying until it's done. So I would have to say that my career and my job was my priority, still is, but other priorities came in. Just to give you a little bit more information around, who do I serve now in the software environment. That's what I've been doing now for the past couple of years, developing software, selling that to airlines and airports. So that's what we do. We do serve already a couple of clients in the area of air crew planning, but also ground crew planning. And having a great fun building up this medium-sized let's say tech startup, and it's something I learn I learn it and I thrive. So that's what has made me swap from consulting to software development and founding a company.
I have
Which is,
already the first question, by the way.
yeah,
I see here
go
two
ahead.
female founders. So do you believe it's more challenging for female founders, or is it easier, or is it same compared to male founders?
I would say I've never experienced it being harder, but I always also have to say my style is very male. Like also in consulting, I've been asked that question whether it's harder to be a female partner or to have a career in consulting being a female. I think there's a benefit of being a female because there's a couple of talents that people like male competitors may not have that you have as a female, such as empathy or being not as dangerous to, let's say, upper management. So as a consultant, you have certain things you can fetch that you don't have as a male consultant. In software, I would say, or in startups, I would say it's probably a bit harder because you need to explain yourself more. It's a bit odd, or like you're being looked at if you're a female founding a IT company, because that's usually a topic associated with with males. So doing tech and, let's say, in a male dominated industries is certainly not making it easier. But I wouldn't say it was an obstacle. I've always enjoyed doing it together with my co-founder Francie. We get along quite well. So far I've never thought like what would have happened if I was a guy. But it's a good question. I wouldn't say it's a disadvantage to be a female founder.
And what is your stance in regards to venture capital only funding female startups, or this, let's say, this question, is this something which needs more support from the venture capital industry? What's your stance on that?
Yeah, I think yes. I think there's a lot of women having great ideas and having a lot of brains and not having the guts to, kick it off and found a company. I think in general, and that comes along with females being less good at networking. So males are much better at connecting with each other and, doing each other favors. So I wish females were better at that. They are at a certain level in certain topics, but I would say, especially in the venture and like collecting capital, is something where the males probably have still benefits. And I would say it's a good idea to support female founders and encourage and get them into the cycle of or in the networks that are relevant. It took me quite some time to get the vibes and get how it works. And I would guess there could be more female founders if they were encouraged by investors more properly. Yeah. Yes. Especially in tech, many female founders choose different topics, but I think there's a lot of competence also with females in tech. So I think that needs to be supported stronger or more. Yes.
Does it mean then that it's easier for female founders to get an award compared to male because they are struggling with venture capital, or it's rare to have them in this industry? I don't want to play down your award, but is it maybe if you're a female founder, you get easier this award because
you're rare?
The news would like to report about it, and it's a news compared to another male founder got something because.
Yeah, I would say it's a difficult question. I would say I have to say sometimes I had the feeling people appreciated us being there because we were the only women. Wouldn't necessarily say that made them select us to give us the award, because we won with the startup, we won startup of the year startup of the month Frankfurt Forward last year. I would say there were other female founders, but we were the strong, very clearly the minority. So I would say it's something they consider. I can't neglect it. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, but I think that's maybe a topic for yet another panel on, also the quota in Germany, because, that's also very, very interesting discussion that goes along, with that. But anyways, coming back to the topic we have for today. So before deciding to have a family, obviously, after having, finished my studies, there was really one priority. And, entering the business world, my job became my priority because I am having so much fun doing it, which is also it can be toxic, but I just love my job. I get really excited about it. And the second thing, obviously, I'm a perfectionist, so that also consumes a lot of time if you want to do your job right. But obviously, my takeaway is if your job becomes your hobby, you tend to forget a little bit about the rest of your life, and you do sacrifice a lot. And so it does belong to my, so to say, recent history that a major industry crisis was needed to get me thinking about what else I wanted to reach in life and remember how important family was to me. Not that I ever forgot, but like, having my own family and making that a certain priority or giving that more space in my daily life was certainly a decision that only that was easier to make once there was a crisis and I had a lot of time to think about how I want to, pursue my career. Is my job safe? So I guess we've all been there. So in light of this, starting a family was a significant step for me. Before that wasn't a topic. So 2 years ago, I became a mother, and that certainly disrupted my career. And I want to start talking though about, because that's also part of this discussion today, I want to talk about how that also disrupted my life and my personal perception of myself, because I think motherhood, and that was slightly surprising to me, motherhood put me on the spot. So not only is that a massive change of your personal life, because you're responsible for somebody who's there always, and you can't obviously do what you've been doing. So everything is different, but also, and I thought that was making it particularly hard for me to, take care of that, or like to manage the change, is that everybody outside, so everybody else is judging you. So whether you ask them or not, while I had the feeling like while I was pregnant, I was surprised how polite and nice everybody was, and in society, in daily life. But once you're a mother, you get more feedback than you can take, and certainly more than you ask for. So whatever you do, kind of like, if you breastfeed, you're being judged. If you don't breastfeed, you're being judged. If you do it long or short, that's always somebody has an opinion on, and they're telling you without you asking them. Same with like, doing a call while strolling, pushing around your baby in a stroller, that's being judged. So everything, like, I thought that was surprising because that never happened to me before. And I was overwhelmed by the feedback from everybody around me, close or not. And I thought that was making it unnecessarily hard for young mothers or recent mothers. And I think the second thing that I thought that didn't help me especially was the fact that I have the privilege to live in a country that is ranked, I think, 4th place in the world for maternity policies. And that causes, and that's a great thing. Don't get me wrong. It's an amazing thing and it's a privilege. I understand and I know, but that puts a lot of pressure on mothers that are not in for 1 or 3 years off, even if they were paid or partially paid. So I think my decision to give my child to daycare at 6 months, because I was I really wanted to go back to work, that was judged by everybody, not only at work, but also everybody everywhere outside. So I think that made it really hard for me to then kind of like come clear on where I wanted, how I wanted to be a mother and what my role was and whether I was a good mother. Because like, obviously, and that's why I put traits of a good mother. Like if you Google this, there's so many results for what's a good mother. Like the perfect mother, and I'm like certainly far away from what is per definition of the public the perfect mother. So I think my greatest challenge was like understanding and defining for myself and becoming clear about what kind of mother I wanted to be. And that
And
actually took, yeah, sorry.
and this judgment, when you talk about this judgment, do you have a sense of is it more people same age? Is it older people? Is it more female? Is it more male? Or is it same, everybody's judging in the same way?
I feel like yeah, I have to say, like, obviously, when you become a mother, or when I became a mother, I was automatically in that certain bubble of people that I spend time with, like people you meet in baby courses or people that you meet in a hospital or at prep courses. So there's a lot of females in a similar age or in a similar position in their lives, and they may make a different decision on their career. They may decide motherhood is their thing and they want to take off 3 years. And these were usually like people making a different decision, taking less or more time off, were usually the ones judging me most. And questioning also whether it's possible, or questioning why I was having a child if I gave it away so early, which I understand the question. It's not a good question, but I understand why they're asking it. But I think there's, the state pays for it and encourages this. That's even pushing it further. And people are, if it's for free anyways, like, why are you not taking it? And I think there's more to a person than the willingness to become a mother, but I think there's also the other aspect of myself really wanting to pursue my career and do my job, not because I found it, but also because that's such an essential part of my character and my life. So yeah, I think to answer the question, I think it's females same age. Yeah, usually similar age. Yes. I think males are, like, let's say dads in my surrounding colleagues, they would not say anything to it. They would say, okay, whatever you like, do whatever you think is best. I think males are probably more in the, less in that, reflection position than females, because they made that choice as well, or have had to make that choice. So I think one of the most, like, the hardest things that I had to manage in the first year, and it took me a year, is becoming clear of what's my definition of a mother. And I was having a hard time accepting that I am not this, perfect ideal mother that is, I wouldn't say willing, but like I would say dedicating her life to her child like others do. And becoming clear that I'm not going to be the mother also that my surroundings are expecting from me. So whether it was my partner, whether it's my, mother-in-law or whoever, certain people may have other expectations as to how much time I spent with my child and whether I go on a business trip, even though the child is only one. But anyways, you need to define how you want to play this and become clear and become fine with it. And you also have to be aware, though, especially if you're a young mother and it's your first child, be aware that this definition takes time. It doesn't come overnight. It took me a year at least to be fine with my new position. Also, to I'm more at home now, so naturally there's more tasks at home that I take over. So that was something I wasn't used to. Compared to my partner, who's not at home as often. So anyways, I think that's my number one learning, define what kind of mother you want to be. And I would certainly also say it's important to remember that being a good mother is not a mother that's always there, but it's more a mother that's happy with how she deals with motherhood. So I, for example, just like, this is a really operational example, but I realized that the quality of time I spent with my child or with my daughter was much higher if I was given a couple of hours per day to take care of my personal time, or, my job, or physical and mental health too, because many mothers tend to forget to take care of their physical health and their mental health after giving birth. And the other thing is, like, part of my mental health is reliant on, pursuing my job. So that was really important. And after I realized that and sorted out somebody who took took care of my daughter while she was still pretty little. That significantly improved my quality of life and also made me, I think, provide a better, so to say, family time or face time with her while I was taking care of her alone. Yeah, it also significantly reduced the time I had to, or like the times I checked my phone while I was taking care of her. Because that's the other toxic thing, you know, home office makes you check your phone every other, I don't know, 10 minutes for somebody sending you an email or an invite, ignoring that you're off. So that's certainly something I learned. What else? So that was really the personal part of, or this also, you know, social aspects of becoming a mother. And then there's this area of my career and my professional life that I also obviously wanted to reflect with you on. So what did this do to my career? Now, obviously, when I became a mother, I was pretty far already when it came to career. So being a partner helped me there. So there wasn't too much, at least in the consultancy, that I was still wanted to reach as in position or career ladder. But there's 3 lessons that I still learned so far. So number 1 topic was, with me being a rather dominant leader, as you may guess, I needed to learn to let go power and trust others. Because obviously there was a time of a couple of weeks where I wasn't able to work at all. So I needed to force myself to delegate and trust others to do my job and be patient if it didn't work. So that's number 1 learning. Obviously, that came along with preparing my staff to take over that position, but it was certainly something I had to teach myself. Become realistic about what can be achieved. So I needed to learn to say no to clients and colleagues. I realized that, you know, before having a child and spending 24/7 on work and, you know, just doing a night shift if things weren't done yet or the way I wanted them, is something you are absolutely unable to do if you have a child. Like, you will fall asleep while working because it's so exhausting to have a child and then work. So I realized that there's a natural limit to me having to work less than prior, and, you know, saying, no, I will not be able to finish this or take over this responsibility. You will have to do it yourself. And that's probably something that was never heard by my staff or colleagues prior to me having a child, because I would always say, yeah, I'll take care. And if you're always the person that takes care of stuff and solves problems, everybody's used to you solving problems. So they got really excited when I said I will return earlier from paternity leave, because they thought they can hand over everything back to me. No. So you have to learn to say no. Otherwise, you won't be able to deliver the quality in the time that you have, which is restricted. One thing that I think is very applicable also for other females that are maybe not, you know, in the position that I was in when I became a mother, is to rethink the initial plan. So when I returned from parental leave or paternity leave, obviously I was unable to pick up my former position because I was unable to travel 4 days a week. So I needed to be open for change in my career path and find a spot that still challenged me. Obviously, that took some time because I was scared to step back and, you know, be marked as, okay, now she's got a child, she's out of the business. So obviously, you need to be creative and think and discuss with your superiors, with your bosses, as to what is a position and what is a potential responsibility you can take over without having to travel a lot or without having extra hours or delivering extra hours. So I think I came along with that fact of me having to pick up a different role than prior, and certainly a less exciting role, because I found out that it would still challenge me and I would be able to learn. So I, for example, took over internal topics such as, you know, HR, recruiting. So that was something I had never dealt with before, but I still learned a lot. So that was fine for me, even though I wasn't in, you know, the front row anymore as often. Still, I had to do it sometimes. So that's the 3rd topic that I learned. Or that I would give, you know, to others as an advice: rethink the initial plan, be flexible, and like think about what other opportunities come along with a different role. then obviously, and I think that's something that where, at least in Germany, society and the business world needs to significantly change. If you have a child and you formerly were a, a leader, and then you come back to a leadership position, you need colleagues and superiors that have patience and that are very flexible. So luckily, my superiors were so excited for me to come back early. They were super flexible with the definition of my new role, and my colleagues were also excited for me to come back. So they were patient with my baby crying in the background when we had a call, or me not being able to pick up, calls at 20 to 100 anymore. And I think certainly home office is one of the best things that could have happened, at least to me, because that made it possible to pick up my job as a consultant, even though I had a child, in combination with that flexibility that my employer gave me. So yeah, and I think in many companies, especially in big companies, that there's still that ignorance and that, the feeling that when you come back from paternity leave and when you have a child, you've got less chances of, getting a career, or some positions even are only offered full time. So that is, that's making it for a mother, it's impossible to pick up certain jobs. They're only offered full time, because we all know full time is usually 140%, and you can't give that, nor time wise, neither mentally. Yeah, what's the first thing? Teach your clients. So obviously, as a consultant, I have a lot of exposure to clients, and clients that spend a lot of money on consultants have an expectations towards the partner being there every time, being reachable anytime. So I needed to, teach them patience, and they were happy being taught, and tolerance. Now, luckily, they know me quite well, and since a long time. So that worked quite well. But I can imagine that in bigger corporates or bigger consultancies, that's not as easy to execute. But essentially, during COVID, so many people got used to people being in the kids being in the background of calls, that by the time I somehow suddenly had a child in the background, everyone was like used to it anyway. So I was a little lucky there. But obviously it doesn't work with every hierarchy. Yeah, but I think I was surprised how tolerant people are, and how well they accepted certain restrictions that came along with my, double role. And one thing that I still have to say I struggle with, and that's the 6th point, is saying goodbye to former performance. So I honestly had, and still have, the issue that it needs a lot of energy to focus on work and to deliver on a level that is somehow comparable to my old self, or my old, performance, because not only time-wise, but also mentally, the fact that you're picking up the job of a mother and taking care of a lot of topics that you're not used to, because I was certainly not prepared to what was coming. And there's this word, I think in Germany, and I think this is maybe a global or international one, mental load. First, I didn't get it, but I think I now finally understand what's meant. It is hard to come back to where you were, bring the focus that you used to have once you have a child. Certainly can't neglect that. Haven't solved that issue. If anybody has an idea how to solve it, happy to get it and to learn from it. Yeah, so these were my 6 lessons regarding my career. So what is kind of to sum it up and come to an end on this one now? How has it changed for me so far, and what can I tell others? So obviously, becoming a mother has made me a better person, I think. One that reflects more about others, something that I would say wasn't something that I would have done earlier too often. One that I became significantly more resilient to irregularity, and I was used to a lot of stress as a consultant as well. But having a child and managing that in parallel to a call, if anything goes up or down, you become a lot more resilient to irregularities, independent of whether in your private life or in your career. So I think mothers are probably the better leaders because they're used to more stress and think in stressful situations. You learn that certainly things in life are just not that important. So certain things you can't, you can't brag, or can't, get lost in thinking about things that that are not getting you anywhere. So I think being a mother has made, has enabled me to stop focusing, or thinking about things that are actually not as important. So you start prioritizing. And one of those topics that I think are not important anymore is the opinion of others, and thinking about what others think as to how you perform your job. So I think it made me more self-confident when it came to how I do live my life and do my job as a mother. Yeah, you learn that the opinion of certain people, in fact anybody, is not important. What matters is the way you do it. And then I think what's important, don't sacrifice too much of yourself, find compromise. And I think one thing that I learned as well is ask others for help. There's a lot of people being happy to hold your child for an hour if you want to go to the gym. There were a couple of times where, and I'm not talking about gym or getting a facial, but even if you have a, important telephone conference, ask whoever, they'll happily help you. I had a hard time asking others for help, and you will need the help. So you may as well get used to asking. And the other thing I take away is just take your child. If there's no solution and you can't avoid a meeting conflict, just take the child. You will be surprised how tolerant many people are. So oftentimes I brought my daughter, and everybody was like, obviously you can't do this always because people get annoyed by the noise and the mess, but yeah, it works. And it will actually be also good for the child to be taken to other situations and learn to potentially play somewhere else, or accommodate being or trying to be a bit more calm. So yeah, this is from my side, so to say, what I've learned, what my personal and I would say social aspects are, my thoughts around this are. So happy to jump onto a discussion on any of the topics I raised.
A reading that it made you a better person. And of course, I don't expect to have the one right answer, but what is then your view in the hindsight about the best moment of becoming a mother? Because if you can become a better person earlier in your life,
Yeah.
you're benefiting earlier from this, or is it also good to make certain experiences which helped you to make the transition? So what is your perspective on that?
Sometimes in my career, I wish I had a child already, because I would have been more tolerant towards people having children. So sometimes I think back about colleagues or, directs who had children. I was annoyed about them being sick again, or, handing in sick leave notes for their children. Now I fully understand. If your child is sick, it's impossible to work. You also can't send them to your mother because she'll be sick as well. So I think it probably makes you a better leader if you have family as well, because you can understand the problems. But I also have to say, it is really tough to pursue a thriving career if you have a child, because as I said, it's really hard to deliver the performance and the focus if you have a child, especially when the child is young. If you talk to me in 2 years, I would probably say should have done it earlier. Because it just enriches your life so much, and it makes you a better and a more tolerant and more resilient leader, I think. Yeah, essentially.
Yeah, because I just remember my parents were 18 and 19 when I was born. And then nowadays it's more in the 30s and the 40s. But when people can become better person,
yeah,
why not starting earlier?
Yeah, I see your point. At the same time, I have to also say I have a lot of friends who who've decided to not have children, and I do understand them better now. Fully understood why people would not have children. So also that's It doesn't necessarily, if it makes you a better person, but it doesn't make your, business life easier. Certainly not. Can't move as fast, can't, go on business trips. So if that's important for you, I think it's the topic of priority. Like, if I had the child 2 years early, or let's say 5 years early, before I became a partner, I would have always thought, like, what if I had a child later? What about my career? Because like that was such an important topic for me. I think I wouldn't have been happy. Or like there's a risk you think you missed something if you become a mother, or like if you get children quite early in your life. Yeah.
And maybe you stop your screen sharing, because then you have your in a larger picture. What was till date then the very best moment of your motherhood? The very best.
That's a tough one. It is probably when she hugs you the first time, or when she tells you the first time that she loves you. That's when you're like, okay, Jesus, what have I done? Like, this is amazing. But I have to also say, like, I'm not a person that was particularly involved with, motherhood, or giving birth, and like how amazing the body is, and like anything around that. Like, I was so amazed about what my body can do when I had, gave birth. Like, I literally created a person. I was like amazed about how my body can, like, it can't cope with a knee injury, but I can give birth to a child and then recover fully within a year. I thought it was amazing. So yeah. But anyways, I think it was when she first smiled at me, or when she hugged me and told me she loved me. That was like crazy. Yeah.
Thank you, Lana. I think this was a fantastic talk. Questions from the audience? Are there comments from other mothers here in the audience?
What about the second child? How will that integrate in the career?
I was not daring to ask this question, but thank you, Maria.
I will ask it because I would like to share here. It's a small group. I actually had my son before I graduated with a bachelor's degree from college. Yeah. And then I have 2 additional master's degrees, a master's degree and an MBA, which I graduated in different countries from where I was born. And so I have navigated my career, but my biggest regret now that it's too late is that I didn't have the time to have a second child. So how about second child fitting on your life map and career map?
Yeah, no, certainly planned, certainly on the roadmap. Yeah, so I don't want my second child to be too far away from my first child, because I think that is, essentially the benefit of having a sister or a brother. I've always enjoyed having a sister. Not so sure whether she enjoyed being my sister, but I think she did. So no. It's in the planning, let's say. And I would also say, interestingly, I feel confident that even though I founded a company and my full focus is on building up that startup together with Franziska, I would say having a child now is easier than when I was a consultant, because I'm essentially responsible for the company, but I can trust my team and I can trust that the delivery is running even though I'm not there. So I feel more confident having a child now actually than while I was employed in a consultancy with others around me influencing my career. Now I'm responsible because I'm the leading the company, so it makes it a little easier if you have a good team.
Also depends on the geographic location, because it's not that easy in America where there's no maternity leave, almost no maternity leave, and challenges of that sort.
Yeah, and I have to say, honestly, like I said, I'm very privileged to be in Germany, also with regards to daycare. It's still, I am amazed how bad it works. Like, I'm amazed how hard it is to find proper daycare and to pursue a career. So there is a lot of stones, I think, that are being put into the way of females returning to work when it comes to daycare, when it comes to, what are the kinds of things that are being done, how are females helped, or young mothers helped. to return, not only employer-wise, but certainly state-wise. So I couldn't find daycare. So now we have, I've had to employ somebody privately to take care of my child, which is something certainly I have to say that's another aspect that I haven't raised. Sorry. Doing it the way I did costs us a lot of money. Like, you need to be able to fund this to have personal daycare, and employing somebody to take care of your child if you don't have daycare. So that's really expensive. Certainly in countries like the US, that's really hard to find and to finance, yes.
Any other comment or question from the mothers or the non-mothers in the audience?
Maybe. Hello, Daniel.
Yes, I can hear you. Yeah.
Thank you for inviting me for today's meeting. I'm very impressed and I appreciate it. I'm a mother of two, and actually, since I remember, I was always struggling with time management, trying to cope with all the job and home-related tasks. Lana, do you have some, how did you learn to do it? Probably you learned very quickly because you seem to be such a kind of person who finds solutions easily. But how did you cope with this?
Well, I would say I have a lot of lists where I note things because I tend to forget a lot more after I gave birth. Seems like my brain has struggled to come back to where it was. So I have a lot of lists of things. I obviously do benefit from friends or peers who give me tips on, oh, by the way, you need to go do an appointment for vaccination, because I obviously, again, forgot about it. And I became more tolerant about things that, about failing in daily life, like forgetting things, not having the food or drink or whatever I was planning on giving to the child. Becoming more tolerant has probably helped de-stressing, and then you start being able to focus on the really important topics that you need to not forget. But yeah, I have a lot of lists, so I don't forget things, to be honest. Yeah, still forget things and then have somebody reminding me or asking. Yeah.
So still, this is probably a process. Thank you.
Yeah, it is. And but I certainly have to say it took me a time, especially when you breastfeed. That's funny, like biologically, you are being slowed down. Your brain is being slowed down. So you would do, there's some biological reasoning behind it, which I think is also amazing. But that slows down your brain, and it gave me such a hard time to remember things. So you can take certain vitamins to try to avoid, avoid that or reduce it. But yeah, it's really hard to take care of both. I mean, there's movies about this, right? And they're not far from reality, I have to say. So if you have like if you would observe me in daily life, sometimes I'm like, hopefully nobody saw me doing this. So it gets chaotic from time to time. Yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other question? Lana, then I thank you very much for this very personal talk. I liked it very much. And sorry for all these questions from the male attendee here, but I think I always want to learn something new. And yeah, we agreed on this topic in July, and I hope you enjoyed also the session. Potentially, by going through this, you have also learned something new about yourself, also being a mother. And so I would like to have you then on stage after the birth of your second child.
Yes, I will call you once it's
very
delivered.
Good. So I think now we have a plan that will be potentially, I don't know, the 61st Aviation Women panel or something like this.
Yes, I will make sure it's happening.
Thank you very much, and please stay healthy and safe. And was great having you with us. And just looking ahead, what you can expect as next talk. It's in November. My colleague, where is she? Why is it not showing up? My colleague will talk about airline loyalty. And that will be in November. So I'm going to send the information around, and so you will hear from me. Please stay healthy and safe, and it was nice having you with us. Bye-bye.
Thank you for having me. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.